How's everybody? Hey, Crystal. Hello, Evan. How's everybody ready for scary stories tonight? I'm good. Hopefully, we can get this. I'm going so low tech. It's hilarious. If you guys could only see the setup. Hi, Catch a Kitty. Hi, Becky. Becca. Sorry. How are you doing? Okay. So, Triple X today. I think you're talking about my husband's channel. He has a great channel. Thank you so much. But I am here tonight. He is out wrestling. Hi, Becca. Yes, it's really nice to see you. And we are, not we, just me. This is the first time solo. So, I'm a little bit nervous about being out here with everyone and hopefully entertaining. Hi, Big Red Tower. Hi, DI Gaming. I am enjoying my day. My husband's Jacob, the carpetbagger. So he's the one with the channel. I'm just here, just kind of filling in. Hey, Catch a Kitty. What time is it here? It is East Coast time. I think it's 9-ish. I'm not, it's close to 9 p.m. And look how dark it is already. Because guess what I found out this weekend when we went to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan? That it gets dark at 10 o'clock. DI Gaming, he is not streaming tonight because he is wrestling. And I have been doing like a Saturday night campfire chat, which has evolved into torch chat because guess who doesn't build a very good fire? Detroit. That's where I was just at after the Upper Peninsula. But anyway, I was amazed. It's like 10:30 p.m. when it gets dark, and that's Eastern time. So it's not really like it's that much further west than here. Actually, I think it's pretty much due north of where I'm at in North Carolina. So I'm really kind of shocked that it would get dark so late. I guess it must be to do with it being so far north, but that's only my like colloquial understanding of it. Yeah, Jacksonville, exactly. I've been to Florida many times. It's always dark about the same time as here. So, Southern Arkansas. Hi. So we've got a few people here now. I wanted to tell some interesting things or not so interesting things that might put you guys to sleep. Who knows? About our little family vacation. So first we went and we visited relatives in the northwestern area of Indiana. Then we went to Milwaukee for more relatives. And then we went to the Upper Peninsula through Wisconsin. I've never heard of the rake creature, I'll tell you what. If I had, I would have them in my yard raking. I need it. But anyway, yeah, we went up to the Upper Peninsula. We visited Marquette, Munising, and then we came down to Mackinac Island, which I had not been in since I was a little girl. Thanks, John. Yeah. And we met Becca and while we were out there, and we had a really good time meeting you guys, Becca. So, and then we came down from Mackinac into Detroit, where I have more family. We just kind of have a lot of Midwestern roots. I'm from Detroit originally, but I've lived here all my life. So, thanks, Jerry's Keeper. That's really sweet. It is my first live stream by myself. I've done some with Jacob, and I've done some with some other friends, but this is the first, like, totally solo. I don't have any crutches or anyone else that I'm leaning on, and no one to help me with tech support, so forgive me when it goes a little awry. I don't feel like, are you guys able to even see me at all? Because it feels kind of dark. Maybe I should light the other torch. Well, ghost encounters, no. No. I did not have a ghost encounter, but something happened that made me so creeped out. And when I tell it, it just sounds so stupid. The largest fish I ever caught was probably about like I don't know, a trout like yay big, you know. Um, that's the biggest fish I've ever caught. Tell Jason I said hi, Becca, if he's around. We enjoyed hanging out with you too, and we definitely want to do it again. But I do have, yeah, have you ever just had like a really bad dream, a scary dream or something to that effect? And then when you go to tell somebody about it, you cannot believe how stupid it sounds when you say it out loud. You're like, wait a minute, I was paralyzed in fear for 3 hours because of that? Doesn't make sense. Well, I didn't have a dream this time. What wine am I drinking? I am drinking some Boda Box white wine. I'm not a huge heavy drinker. I hope that doesn't get people upset at me or whatever, but I will drink a glass of wine now and then, usually on the weekend because I have to work. Bye, Mary. I'm sorry. Um, I'm sorry. I probably shouldn't have done that on air because maybe it would offend some people. But anyway, I do have the occasional glass of wine. I'm not a huge drinker, like I said. Definitely don't come from. I grew up like Baptist home and all that. My grandfather does not approve of that. he raised me and like you don't do those things. So I never like offending anyone else's sensibilities. Godzilla. I hope so. Thanks, Chris. Cheers. Um, so anyway, there you go. Drink less and live more. That is good advice because it is ugly when people drink a lot. Especially use it as a crutch. But anyway, I want to tell my story now since there's enough people in here. Little less than we've had before, but I was not consistent in doing this every week because we've been on vacation for 2 weeks. So here I am, back from vacation, and that was the longest vacation I've ever had in my life, guys. I've never had a 2-week vacation ever before. Usually it's like 10 days max, but that was a long time. And I had, oh, neat, Becca. I wish we would have known when we were there. That's so cool. I had a really great time. Great family and lots of stuff like that. So, without further ado, we went to Marquette, Michigan. We looked up an Airbnb because the hotels, I'm really kind of scared of like the other. You want me to light the other light, Catch Kitty? Okay. Sorry. I will tell the story here in a minute, guys. I promise. I feel like I'm teasing everybody. Or maybe, does that look better? I feel like you can see me better now because at least maybe the light's in the right position. Is that right? Is that good? Everybody? There we go. Yeah, okay. That is better. Now I don't look like a ghost. Oh, thank you. All right, so anyway, we decided to use Airbnb. When you go to a small town and they don't really have like a chain that you can count on, like a Courtyard or something like that, then I am nervous. Now my husband will stay in anything. He doesn't care. His standard is like, does it have a bed? But my standard is different. And I am afraid to stay in some of these little places. Oh, thank you, Jerry's. That, are mom and pop places, which a lot of times are really great, but you don't know until you get there and see it for yourself. And if you don't book it ahead of time, you may not get anything at all, and so you worry about that. And then also they're freaking expensive. I mean, $120 a night to stay in like a 2-star Priceline hotel that you've never seen in person and is owned by, privately. You don't know whether or not it's going to be any good. You can't really get a lot of information. So, the best I could do, I just Airbnb'd. Thanks, Five Nights at Freddy, and I will tell him you said hello. So I decided, okay, fine, I'm just gonna do Airbnb. So we found the cutest little apartment that was in downtown Marquette. And it was like a little brick apartment. I think there were 4 apartments in the little, it wasn't a complex. It was like a house that maybe they turned into apartments, or maybe it had been apartments forever. I don't really know. But it was super, super cute. But it was old. I mean, probably 1930s old, I guess. And it was in typical Michigan fashion. You used to live there, Godzilla? I need to pick your brain because I just had so many thoughts on that place. It's so neat. But it was down this little street, and in typical Michigan fashion, all the houses are in sweet little rows, trees down the street. It was really cute. Well, we get there, and as we're pulling in, the very first, like that, the very first house on the street has this gentleman sitting on the porch. I have no idea why, but when I locked gaze with that man, I was convinced this man, there's something off about him. He's creepy. And I try not to be, me too, Funketeer. I try not to be judgmental about people, but sometimes I just get a feeling about people. And so I just I didn't like him. He gave me a bad vibe. So we keep pulling down the street looking for the house, and lo and behold, we're like the 4th house, and he's the first one. So we're very close, because these little neighborhoods, they have very small yards. And so we pull in, we get out. I'm so excited. We go to the house. The back door of the house is where we're staying in apartment B, I think it was. And there is a door that you open. And a lot of Midwestern homes will have like one door as an entryway door, and then the next door. And I guess kind of the idea, oh, it's still 4th of July here, by the way. Um, and someone's now pulling up my driveway. I think that's going to be my dad. But anyway, it may be a distraction for a minute, guys, as my dad and grandpa get out of the car. But in typical fashion of the Midwest, a lot of times there's those little breezeways. And I think the idea is get your boots off, it's an entryway. And also to keep the really cold air out of the house. Thank you. Um, so that's kind of how this was set up. But when you opened the first door, there was just a small little landing. And from that landing, there were steps that went down to a basement. So my first thought is like, are we in the basement? No, this is not what I saw online. I remember seeing natural light in the pictures. Oh God. And so I looked down there. Great neighbors. They're great. Um, anyway, I looked down there, and there's like a green door. Yes, it is. It is. There's a green door, and it's like a wooden door that goes into obviously a cellar. And I can see that, there's no one around. There seems to be some kind of little alcove to the right of that, but there was a baby gate set up there. So you can see that the owners clearly don't want you to go down there. And then to the right, there was the door to our apartment. So we unlock our apartment and we go inside, and it is just the cutest thing you have ever seen. It was very 1920s, 1930s. If you guys can hear rocks wrestling, that's my dad and grandpa coming in from their big nights. Hey, 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 Brown. How you doing? Did you enjoy your show?
Yes, the half we got to watch.
Uh-oh. Did they start earlier than they said?
No, no, he just needed to come home.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you had some fun. They went to see Raymond Fairchild tonight, guys. He's a banjo player. Um,
World's greatest.
World's greatest.
5 times.
5 times, Dad says. Anyway, Grandpa got tired and had to come home. Dad's a little salty about that, I can see. But anyway, my dad had come out from Arizona to watch Grandpa and to help with him while we were. Ooh, that'd be a good idea, JJ. Um, hi. While we were gone on our vacation. Ooh, yeah, this cellar really, I don't know. It just creeped me out because you could tell, it's just like this wooden, like, it looked like planks just kind of nailed together, basically, like a gate or something. But never mind that. We went inside the apartment, and it was just the cutest little thing. Everything was kind of old and just, but it just had this look about it. And the kitchen, the sink had a window that just looked out to this little Greek Orthodox church that was sitting there. It was so cute. The little bedrooms. But one thing I started to notice when I come in, all the windows are up. All of them. They have like sticks in them holding them up because these are really antique, old, wood frame windows with that kind of glass that if you shut it too hard, it'd shatter. I know because I lived in a house like that for a long, long time. And yeah, Adam would love that probably. He's so good at filming locations. But I've got to stop sidetracking. I'm sorry. But anyway, the home was super nice and it was warm. And I realized, hey, this house doesn't have air conditioning, but I'm really excited um, because I like the whole feel of it. It just seems like when you pull up to Marquette, like you're 20 years back. And I don't say that to say that people are not as savvy or smart or anything, but because there's no Walmart that I saw. Maybe there was somewhere, but not downtown. There was no gas stations all over the place. There was no, metal buildings. All the stuff seemed to have architecture and it seemed to have purpose and it was walkable and so cute. And then Lake Superior was there and it was just so charming. Everything about it. So, everything was charming until that night. Okay, flashback to the part I told you about. I'm driving past the first house and I get this glimpse of that guy. And it sticks in my head. You guys probably are like, she's a little cuckoo, but that's okay. It sticks in my head. I'm thinking about it. But that night, it finally gets dark at like, 2 a.m. No, I'm just kidding. It was like 10:30 when it got dark. And I realized that the porch light had been on the whole time, but I hadn't noticed it because it had been daylight. So now it's dark and the porch light's on, but very, very dim. I go out to the hall to turn the porch light off, and there's like a little dome, a plastic dome over the light switch, so the owner doesn't want you to turn it off. So then I realize when I go back in and sit down and it gets really bright that, oh, it's a motion detector light. So maybe it just kind of sits there in the background dim, and then, if something walks out or whatever, it gets brighter. And I'm thinking to myself, there must be a cat, there could be a bug, who knows what it could be. But I have 3 windows right there on the porch. I'm sitting on the couch looking out. Jacob is in there editing videos like he always does at night. Um, Dude, he works so hard, guys. He works so hard. It wasn't Bigfoot. It's hard to even talk about it. But even though I know it's not going to sound so scary to you guys, the buildup is nuts. So I decided, I wanted to see Aurora Borealis. Well, I checked the forecast for Aurora Borealis, and my chances of seeing Aurora Borealis were about like the chance of seeing, Spider Man on the tip of my nose. Not happening. But I decided I'm going to walk out and I'm going to go see these beautiful stars anyway because we're out in the Upper Peninsula in Marquette, which is situated right on Lake Superior, and everything that you can see beyond that is dark skies because there's no light pollution, there's no city 5 miles down that you can see. Once you get up to that lakefront, it's dark skies total. Even right in town, it's just crazy. And so I walk out to the street, and I'm like, well, I'm gonna go down to the end of the street where I have the view of Lake Superior at the end of kind of like we were on a hill. I didn't realize there were hills up there, but there was. And so I started walking down the street, and I walked past the first house that we saw the first time. And there, hanging from like uh, some kind of overhang there. It was just like a little overhang that went over his porch about halfway, maybe just to keep the rain off, or the doors, or maybe snow, whatever. And there is like a silver mask hanging from this guy's porch, just a silver mask. And I look and I can see the man sitting there watching his TV in the living room with the door open with the mask. And like, now mind you, I'm out there in the dark, no street lamps, nothing. I look over there, and it's like we're locking eyes. Like he can see me, I can see him. Expressionless. He has zero expressions on his face. And I'm just kind of, ugh. The creepy mask was silver, and it was like one of those, like, blank expression masks. You know what I'm talking about? Like, that guy for the internet that does the internet videos. Honestly, completely losing it. Can't remember. But anyway, just something like that. Oh, really? Well, anyway, I continued to walk down the street. I wanted to see all of the, that's funny, all of the stuff, see if I could see any stars, which I could. They were amazing. I started back down our driveway. I tried to put this creepoid out of my mind because I'm like, really, Christy? He didn't do anything. Maybe he didn't even see you. Maybe he was staring and he couldn't see you. Yes, V for Vendetta, that mask. Anonymous, yes. You guys got it. Um, but anyway, it was silver, not white, but nonetheless. Um, Probably goes to some movie. My husband would probably know, but I don't. Um, so I go back toward the house. I get on the driveway. I look up in this quiet night sky. This sky lit up with more stars than I've ever seen. And I live in the country, sort of. I live downtown in the country, but I do go out to the country. It's not like no, I didn't see Dolly Parton. um, I do go out in the country quite a bit. And I look up and I see silently this V shape up in the sky. And like I'm getting all the hairs on my back are standing up on the back of my neck, on my back, like I'm a werewolf or something. But anyway, on the back of my neck are standing up. And I look up and I realize it's seagulls. They're in a formation. And that just added to the creepy tone of the night because I didn't know previously that seagulls would fly at night. I Googled it and found out, yes, they do. And hey, I'm sorry, I don't live near the lake or the beach really, so I really wasn't aware of that. And Becca, you live near a great big lake, and you didn't know that either, so there you go. Um, so anyway, I started back to the house. I realized that as I make, like, we're at the back of the house. Just as you come around the corner is where the door would be. So as soon as you get down the side of the driveway and the door, is just at the corner right there in the back. Before I stepped toward the house, the light outside comes on and gets bright. So I realized that wherever this sensor is must be, on that side of the house. And so I go inside the house and I sit down. And as I mentioned before, remember the light had always been on, but it was dim. I'm sitting on the couch. I'm just kind of having this Zen moment, just thinking about those seagulls and how beautiful they are, and just kind of, just thinking about all the things I had done that day, about the lake, about the cliffs that I had seen, about how you could see clear to the, he is, Megan, sorry, clear to the bottom of Lake Superior, and just how special this place was. Like, it was just so special. Well, at that time, I look up and the light completely goes out. The one thing I haven't mentioned at this point in time is that there's also a hall light that goes toward the basement, and it's also a sensory light. So it doesn't stay on all the time like the one on the porch did, but if you were to open the door, the light would come on. If you were to be walking up the steps from the basement, the light would come on. If anything like that, the light would come on. Well, the light on the porch was completely off, guys. And that's when, under the door, because it took my breath, I was kind of like, how did that happen? Under the door, I could see the light in the hall. It had come on. So the other light goes off, and this light goes on. I had chills. I'm having chills just thinking about it. So at that point, you know how you just kind of get frozen? Like you're just so scared, you don't really, or I don't know if I was scared. I guess I was scared. I was just paralyzed, you know? So I just turn and I get up and I walk into the kitchen with that feeling of every chill going up my back. And Jacob's sitting at the table. And I said, Jacob, something really weird's going on with these lights. You know, would you come and look at it? And Jacob, he's such a cynic, guys. Woo, he is such a cynic. You know, if I told him that there was a 300-pound man at the end of our bed, he'd be like, prove it. You know, he'd be like, you're just imagining that. Um, but he is good because I have a very active kind of, you know, I definitely, you could probably call me paranoid, I guess. I'm a little more paranoid than he is. Just because I've had some pretty messed up, scary things happen, which I'll tell you another one here in a minute. But he gets up, he comes in there, he opens the door, he's like, you're so dumb. You know, that's not what he said, but that's what he's thinking. Trust me. He is like, I need to edit these videos and you are stomping on my time. Just get out of my face. I'm going to make you happy. So he opens the door and I see Jake get this look on his face where all the blood just kind of drains out of his face. And all of a sudden, I'm standing on the other side of the door, unable to see what he's seeing. And I am absolutely losing my mind trying to figure out what's going on. I go, Jacob, what is going on? What is out there? What do you see? You know, I was whispering. I don't know why I was whispering because, like, anything that would have been out there could have heard it too. Well, Jacob says, I think I heard something. And I'm like, what? What did you hear? And he says, down there, down there. And I look, I finally got the courage to come out there because it was all I could do. It was all I could do. It's not like we were armed. We're on vacation. And I come out there and I look down, and that basement door was cracked like that much. On the right hand side of that basement door, there was an alcove because Jacob turned the light on. There was another light that didn't have the little dome over it. Turned the light on, and you could see a light come out of it. So I don't know if it was a room or if it was an alcove or what, because I'll tell you folks, we didn't go down there. Not then, not ever. we, Jacob finally says, no, you know, it was probably just Annabelle walking across the floor, the people upstairs or something. But I'm like, that door was closed. 100%. When we got here, I looked at it. I was creeped out by that door when we got there. And it was cracked. It was cracked, y'all. Plus all the light stuff, what was going on? Good idea, John. I look back out onto the porch and the light's back on now. So I'm just so creeped out over the whole thing. The worst part about this, guys, is the way that this house was set up would remind you of like a shotgun shack. And for those of you who don't know what a shotgun shack is, it's when you can open the front door and point a shotgun through the house and the bullet would go out the back door. Okay? The only thing is, this door, the house, doesn't actually have scorpion shout out. Woo! It was not the Bermuda Triangle. Anyway, there wasn't a back door, but you get the drift because it had an apartment behind it. But, you know, you open the door in the front and you could see clear to the back of it. So in the front, there was a living room. To the right, there was a bedroom. Through the living room, there was a kitchen. It had an archway to get into the kitchen. To the right of that was a bathroom. And then at the back wall, it was still the kitchen, but on the right was the little bedroom where my daughter was staying. It had like bunk beds, so that's how we knew that that was meant for her. Keep in mind, we're having to leave all the windows open in Strange Place with Mask Guy down the street, okay? I didn't like the idea of it. We're on the ground level. Anybody who could come around the apartment could look in literally to your bedroom, to the porch area, whatever they wanted. And the worst part of it all is, I mean, you heard me tell you, so we're in the front off the living room, Annabelle's in the back off the kitchen, and this place is made of brick. So I couldn't hear her if she was shouting at me. And she has an open window next to her bed. Um, so I'm a social worker. All I do all day is hear about kids and see kids that have been hurt. And normally it's their uncle, their grandma, or whoever that's doing these things to them. But sometimes it's a creeper. And I did not like the idea of her being exposed like that. Like, where someone could possibly creep into that window and we wouldn't even know it because we're in the front room. So at that point, we, stayed up and talked for a little bit. Jacob basically telling me, I'm a dork. And I kept trying to just let it go. So, knowing that he's going to judge me and think that I'm a total dork and afraid of everything, um, I just try to keep my mouth shut and forget it. So most of the time I was sitting out in the living room. Then it gets to be like 1 o'clock. Then it's 2 o'clock. Then it's 3 o'clock. And then, I keep thinking about that one book I read. I think it was Amityville, where you're up at 3:15, and every night there would be like a knocking in the cellar. Y'all, I was hearing things that I know for sure were just house bumps, okay? But Lenny, you do what makes you happy, dude. I'm not the police. Um, but anyway, I was so scared. I was up until it started to get to be dawn, which I found out, even though it goes, it's not even dark till 10:30. It still starts to be daylight around 5:30. But before I went to bed, before I went to sleep, the only thing that I could do to get my mind satisfied that there was nothing out there and that there was nothing that I needed to worry about was to face my fears. And so, guess what I did? Well, I took another little walk. I took a walk around the neighborhood. I took 2 walks around the neighborhood. Then I took 3 walks around the neighborhood till I was sure Mr. Creeper was in bed asleep, not making any noise and not prowling around our house. And then I thought to myself, I have just made up that this guy was a creeper when I didn't even know him. I didn't even know him. How could I say this guy is a creeper when I don't even know him? Maybe he just had the mask up there because he thought it was fun. I don't know. But that's kind of the example of how you can easily get creeped out that I like to share on this channel, because I don't know a whole lot of scary stories, but I know that there's something really fun about the buildup of the scary story. A lot more fun than maybe what you actually see or actually hear. And yeah, I agree. Trust your instincts for sure, because you never know. Marionette, if you missed the mask, you've missed the story, but you'll have to go back and watch it when you have a chance. I don't want to make everybody else listen to it again because they'll probably fall asleep. Um, yes, it is the anticipation that's the best part. I will let you know, Becca, about that Airbnb. I can't say anything bad about the Airbnb. It was beautiful, it was nice, I loved it. But I do think there was something super special about that house. And ever since I have been back from Marquette, I cannot get the place out of my head. Like, it's mystical, like it's super special. And I don't mean just creepy guy down the street or whatever. Um, just the whole vibe of the place. We went on a walk and it was in a bog. It was called a bog walk. And I went across a bunch of these little wooden kind of bridges that were built. and we ended up in a cranberry bog, which I what? I've never seen a cranberry bog. You know, I was hoping to see a moose. I was hoping to see some bears. We have bears here, but you know, I was hoping to see more stuff. We saw a white birch forest, but the best part of all was going up to Lake Superior and sitting on the rocks on the edge, and just they were so pretty, guys. I've never seen anything like it. But the people, it was just like I went back to 1985. It was really cool. Um, CK2D. Yeah, you're not a creep. You know, honestly, I bet you could find some creepy stuff in our house if you didn't have an explanation for it. That's for sure. And like, all I was somebody outside looking at, have no. Why would I even judge this poor man? But in my head, I was writing a Stephen King novel about it, you know? Mm. I love Stephen King. He's probably my favorite. But anyway, hey, Pinkies. Hey, Tony. Um, so, I just had an interesting time. That's all. And I remembered that I had another story, but right now, what I want to hear is your stories. And, tell me about a time when you've gotten freaked out, and tell it with suspense. Yes, I met some Upers. They're kind of, it's just a different vibe there. So, with no further ado, I'm going to give out the phone number again. That is, if I can find the phone number again. Sorry, guys. Um, or remember the password for this phone. Why does it have to be six now instead of four? Why do you have to remember six numbers? This is ridiculous. It was a most superior visit, John. Superior. Um, God, grief. Yeah, okay, so I'm in the middle of a live feed. I can't test this out. Somebody call it and tell me if it's the right number. 828 506 1643. I'm about 89% sure that's it. 828 506 1643. And I'll be waiting for your calls. Right. That, Lori. We don't need that. All right. Houston, Texas. Hi, Houston. How are you doing? Hello.
Hello.
Hi. How are you doing?
Good. How about you?
I am good. I'm going to turn up the volume just a little bit, so hopefully I don't cut you off. This isn't my usual phone. Okay. Oh, okay. It was down to like 0. No wonder nobody could hear. Okay. All right. Can everybody hear Houston now? Houston, can you say something?
Hello. Hello.
Hi, hi. Okay. So, Houston, tell us what kind of story are you going to tell us tonight?
Okay. Well, I want to say I was about maybe 6, 7. I had two experiences when I was really young. When I used to live in an older house in Pasadena here where I grew up. Um, so actually, the first one was in my actual house, and the second one, I had a friend who lived right across the street from me. We actually went to school together. I think it was kindergarten, maybe even pre-K. Um, so we used to play in his backyard all the time, stuff like that. Just like real, just what kids do: play in the street, play football, whatever. And I remember his grandma would tell me that his, her actual, it was either her father or her lover that passed away a couple years back, and they told me that they believe the house was actually haunted by him. So, I mean, I just remember that when I was younger, and one day, yeah, it's going to sound crazy, like you were explaining, like something that sounds like made up, like too weird to be true. But this is real. This really did happen. So one day, I'm in their backyard. I was by myself. Friends were inside their own house. They have a gate that leads to a store right behind their house. It was called Seller Brothers. It's a little store. But anyways, so I happened to walk up to the gate. Mind you, I'm really young. I'm not sure what's really going on. So I opened up the gate, and when I opened up the gate, right in front of me stood at least a 6 foot to 7 foot man, but he was all in black. You couldn't see his face. His whole body was just blacked out. Like, it was so weird, but I was so young that I didn't take the time to like ask questions. I was scared out of my mind. So I slammed the patio gate, and it was like a wooden gate. And the first thing I did was slam it, lock it, and then look under the gate to see where his shoes are, make sure he wasn't going to hurt me. And when I looked down, there was nothing there. No shoes, nothing, like nothing at all. And, I'm freaked out because I don't know where this guy came from, and I couldn't see his face. It was just all black. Like, it was like the weirdest, it was like something like in a horror movie. It was just, you couldn't see any facial features, just an all black figure standing right in front of me. So I told them what had happened, and the weird part is, they had told me that the guy who passed away, again, I think it's her father or her lover that had passed away, that he was actually buried in a suit. And that's what I had saw this figure was wearing, was like a black, really, really black suit. And to this day, I try to remember back, like, what actually happened. And I don't know, it was one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. But that's a true story.
Wow. Yeah, what happened, like, when you're standing there looking at it, how did it go away? Like, how did you get to
So,
get
so
away
what had
from it?
happened was I was looking at it, and I want to say it was like for like at least 5 seconds where I was looking at his face. It was so tall, like at least 6 foot, maybe 6'5". And I remember just looking at it, and he was just standing there, like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like an all black figure. You couldn't see his facial features, anything, everything was black. All I
Like a
saw was like a
dream.
tuxedo suit. It was just like pitch black. Like, I don't even know how to describe it, but I stood there and I got scared because, as a kid, I'm like, I don't know what this is. My head's telling me it's danger, danger. So I shut the gate. It's a wooden gate, and it's a big gate. And I jump to my knees and I look under to see where his shoes are, and there's nothing there. So I don't know. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And eventually, I built up the nerve to open the gate, and there's no one there. And I told them what had happened. Of course, most of them didn't believe me because it just sounds like something that you would make up. But
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen. At least I'm convinced it can. Thank you so
yeah,
much
yeah,
for your story. And what was your name?
yeah. That's Brad, dear lady.
Hey, Brad. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you being the first caller tonight.
Yeah. Shout out to Lenny in the
Thanks.
chat.
Shout out to Lenny, guys. Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Okay, so we're going to put the calls on hold for a minute. Everybody, hold on the calls. I'll tell you the number here again in a second. Albuquerque didn't get the message. I'll answer it. That's okay. Oh no! I hung up on him or something. I'm so sorry, Albuquerque. Please call back in a little bit. I want to tell another story. I'm going to tell a story in between the stories. If you guys are interested. And if not, we'll just take the call from Albuquerque. I'll call it back. So, hopefully, I didn't already tell this story. I don't think I did. Stop me if I did. I am getting kind of old, you know. Like sometimes I maybe tell stories I thought I didn't tell before. Um, anyway, this is a story about me moving into a new, not a new, but an old house, much like the apartment that we visited. Actually, very much set up in that shotgun fashion. Actually, did have a front door and a back door set up just like that I was talking about. It was in Franklin, North Carolina, where I lived for many years, and the house was just a very old house. It was probably built in the 1915 to 25 era. Oh, sorry, Godzilla. Okay, I promise after this story I want you to call, but that was you. Okay, so yeah, it was an old house, and well, I had just moved into it, so it was new to me. And my son was probably about 2 at the time. Me and his dad, we just didn't. We were very young. We didn't get along. So I already had a roommate that would stay with me. Me and him, were off and on again, but that was an off an off time where he wasn't there. And we had just moved into this place. So my roommate had the bedroom in the front where there was like a porch and a window that went right onto the porch, and very much like the one in the brick house that we were in Marquette, in the fact that the windows were very old, the glass was very thin, and yay, Josh Hammer. Okay. So anyway, it was just, one of those old, well built, beautiful little homes. And my room, when you walked in the door, there was the living room. And then my room was to the right, and hers was to the left, but mine was behind the living room, and hers was in the front of the living room. So, and I had a bigger room because, I had a little boy, so I had to share it with him. So, the very first night we get there, we did not have phone service. This is pre cell phones. That's how old I am. Savannah Banana Nana. Um, so we go and, we got ready for bed. My roommate actually didn't even have her bed there yet. So we had a pull out couch that she was sleeping on, which was like the most uncomfortable thing in the world. Um, but I only had like a double bed, so I wasn't going to be like, hey, come sleep with me, because that would just be weird. That's another show. So, but anyway, I was back in my room, kind of going off to sleep, all of a sudden. And my son, by the way, was staying with his grandmother, my husband at the time's grandmother. But all of a sudden, it's probably 1:45 in the morning. I literally, I was fast asleep. I sit up in bed like that. I'm sitting. I don't know what woke me up. I don't know, did I hear something in my sleep? But all of a sudden, I'm having chills on my knees thinking about, is that weird? Chills on your knees? Um, but all of a sudden, I'm sitting straight up in bed. Awesome. So I'm sitting straight up in bed. I just have a really bad feeling. I go out into the living room. My roommate is snoring. She's fast asleep. I'm trying to, play it cool when I hear a door slam. Um, and when I also notice that across the street in the church parking lot, which we lived across the street from a church, um, there was a car. And that car had headlights on. And I thought to myself, these people are up to no good, whatever they're doing over there at a church at 1:45 in the morning. But maybe they're over there, you know, doing some nefarious childlike activities. I don't know. And I kind of waited for a little bit to see if that's all it was. Because actually, the church, we were on a very level piece of ground, but across the street, the church was up on a bank. So when I was looking out the door, which had these 3 windows at the top of this old vintage wooden door, I could just see the part where the tree and the car is parked right under the tree. You know, I could see that it was a small car. It looked like it could have been a Ford Escort, something to that degree, and that it was 4 door. So I'm looking out the window. I have no fear, that anything's going on. All this so far is just coincidence until I see the back door of the car open. And I'm thinking, okay, I know what they're doing over there, but that's over there. It's not over here. Who cares? Um, I see someone get out of the car. The lights of the car go off. I see that person start to walk towards the edge of the bank, which is across the street from our house. I go and I wake up my roommate because at this point I'm just pretty scared. By the time I got back over to the door, I can see that the man, woman, or whatever, has made its way down the bank. So I can see that a car started to come down the road. The road between us and the church was a 2 lane road, but it was a road that was pretty well traveled. It was like a main drag for a lot of houses and communities. A community called Skeena, which means Little Hell in Cherokee. So I see that the man, as a car goes by, is crouching in the low part beside the road because he doesn't want to be seen. Um, it's across the street now from my house, level. It's okay. Level, and when the car goes by, I see the man stand up, slowly walk across the street. He's coming toward our house. We don't have a phone. We're 2 girls. We don't even have a set of kitchen knives in there. That's how, freshly we had just moved in. Nothing. Nothing unpacked, nothing. You know, it was a hazard just walking around in there. So I wait till he's on the sidewalk, walking up to the porch. It still scares me every time I think about it. The man gets to the first step. He puts one foot on the first step, and the only thing I can think to do, guys, is to start turning the light off and on. Because to this point, he doesn't know. He doesn't know that we're in the house and that we're watching him because the lights have been off the whole time. I should have mentioned that earlier. So, second step up onto the porch, and I just start turning the light on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. The guy turns around. He shoots, I swear, if he didn't jump across that road. I mean, like a deer going over atop a hurdle. It was crazy. He started running up the hill. He got up there. The lights were already on. The car door was already open, and they were spinning out of there. I, to this day, don't know why that happened. But I have a pretty good idea. And here is what I think happened. So, I told you we lived in an old house. We went, we ended up getting another roommate to help us pay for everything. When that roommate came in, we had this back room, like a enclosed back porch, but it had a room built onto it. And so that is where that friend stayed. And there were, this person had some extra, exactly, arcade. Yeah, it's kind of creepy. Um, this person had extra stuff, and so they wanted to put it in the attic. And they got up to the attic, and up there they found some marijuana. Not just some marijuana, but quite a bit of marijuana. So we had to call the police and have them remove this. Um, but I still think to this day that perhaps someone moved out of the house and then remembered that that was there. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't remember that all along. They must have had a lot going on there. Um, so, anyway, I think they left it there. That's what I think. And I think they were coming back to get it. I don't know that they knew that we were living there. I don't know what was going on. Maybe they didn't think we had moved in yet. At the time, we actually didn't even have a car there. So I'm sorry if I'm buffering. Is anybody else noticing buffering? Um, anyway, it is creepy. It happened. And that was my scary story for the night. So now, if anybody wants to call back, Godzilla, if you want to call back, call back. Um, I'm going to go ahead and give the number out again. It's 828 506 1643. Yeah, maybe Megan. Maybe it was a stash house. I don't know. I don't know how long it had been empty before us or anything like that, but who knows? I just know that I didn't want to be sitting on a bunch of marijuana getting in trouble like I put it there or something. Did I just hang up on you again? Somebody from Utah called. Um, I'm really sorry if I hung up on you. Okay, here we go. Hi, Godzilla. Hi. Are you there?
Yes, I'm right here.
Hey, if you don't mind, please turn off or turn down the volume on the pot on the
Video?
cast. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you. And don't be nervous. Let's hear your story.
Um, so my scary story is when we went up to some mountains in Florida, uh, like a couple of years back. So we set out our tents and we just settled in, and then I went exploring like I usually do. And so I'm walking through the trees, and then I look over into a bush, and I see some white thing just run across. So I go over, and then I'm just looking around, and then out of nowhere, in the trees, I see a white, pale creature thing face just staring at me, and I don't know what to do. So I grab out my BB gun and shoot in its direction, and then the next thing I know, it's just gone.
What do you think it was?
I don't know. I'd say it was about 7 feet tall, like shoulders like 12 inches wide. It walked on all fours. It climbed that tree pretty fast.
That's creepy. Could have been the skunk
Yeah,
ape, guys. All right. Well, thank you so much, Godzilla.
you're welcome.
Thanks for listening, and we appreciate your story.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Have a good night and
You
a good
too.
day.
You too. Thank you so much. Bye bye.
Goodbye.
Okay, guys. All right. So, white thing in the mountains of Florida, y'all. Um, no caller ID. Maybe it's. Let's see. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Who's calling?
This is Kathy.
Hey, Kathy. Where are you from?
Ironton, Ohio.
Hey, we just went through Ohio yesterday.
Oh, well, this is just a real little story. My dad, him and his best friend kind of got into it at a party or something, and my dad's best friend shot him and killed him.
Oh my God.
And when they were doing the funeral, I was 3 years old. And I've heard this story like 4 or 5 different family members told me. And when we were at the casket, and me and my sister, we were real little, we was playing with the flowers and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and people had said that they seen my dad move his head in the casket and look down at us. And
Aw.
then he just kind of like laid back down. And
That's creepy but sweet at the same time, isn't it?
yeah, it is.
It is. Somehow it's
Yeah,
less scary when it's your loved ones, I think. You know, I
yeah,
mean,
it is.
it's just like a way to remember
Yeah,
them. So,
yeah.
thank you so much, Kathy, for your story. I appreciate your call tonight.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye bye. All right, guys. So, I'm going to tell another story now. So, no calls for a few minutes because y'all are just loving my stories. No. Because I just had a lot that I thought of. All right. Well, this Utah person's been calling forever. Let's just check them out first. Uh oh. Ah, can't get it on speaker. Hang on. No. Okay. Hey Utah, it's Christy. How you doing?
So, I'll tell you my story. One day, so, you know, I was going to my kitchen, and it was at night. It was midnight. I was getting a midnight snack, and I hear something from downstairs, right?
Yes.
And I go down there, and I see a black figure, and I'm so scared. My body couldn't move, and he looked at me straight in the eye. I didn't see its eyes. I just saw its head move towards me. He it was really scary. I didn't know what it was. I thought maybe it was one of my family members. I don't know. And it ran back into this vault that I didn't even know about I had in my house. It ran down into this like underground like extra room. I didn't even know I had it, and it just disappeared. And so I locked down that room for good. I didn't even know I had that room, but apparently I did.
Thank you so much, Utah. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much.
I'll talk to you later.
I'll see you later.
Bye. All right. Hey, speaking of secret rooms, did anybody ever read Nancy Drew's story about the secret room? That was something that gave me nightmares. It was a skunk ape in a secret room. Um, you know what though? I have such. Do y'all want to hear an Appalachian story? This is not just any Appalachian story. This is a story about my great grandfather, about my grandmother's father. I'm sorry, Rockford. I'm going to answer your phone call just after I'm done with this, okay? Don't go in a secret room. That's never good. Um, but he was not a nice man. I have a banjo in the basement that belonged to him that I was going to bring out tonight and show y'all because it's ornate and it's beautiful. Ooh, creepy. Just got brighter. Um, it's a beautiful banjo. It has like this mother of pearl working. um, yeah, it's a beautiful banjo, but it's always giving me the creeps, guys. I try not to think about it being in the basement. I try not to look at it when I'm in the basement because he was just pure evil. And I can tell you some stories, and I don't know the details because my grandmother didn't tell me a lot of details. She told me what she remembered or what she was told. Um, I don't know if they're going to turn black or not, guys. Ah! Um, but anyway, he was not a real nice man. He was an alcoholic. Um, and keeping in mind, my grandmother passed away in 2015, and she was 84 then. So she was born in 33. I know my great grandmother was born in 1887, and so um, he must have been around the same age, give or take 10 or 15 years, okay? Because back then, usually the man was a lot older, at least in Appalachian culture. Girls got married very young, and they just had a lot of kids. That's kind of how it worked. But they lived on a place. I don't want to anger any of my relatives because some of these stories, they may carry on the perception of what hillbillies are and how gross people are. And I don't want to carry on that perception. But this man was a bad man. He was a bad man. And he's all those kind of caricatures personified. Um, So they lived on a creek the creek's name was their last name. So I'm not going to say what their last name was. But, I'd heard stories about this creek and the people that lived on it for many years. Like, oh, those people are so backwards, and also that there was an old haunted house where these brothers, these Cicero brothers, killed each other. All kinds of just crazy backwoods stories. Definitely lots of moonshine. Definitely lots of drinking. Lots of not so nice things going on there. Well, I've heard stories about him beating my great grandmother. I've heard stories about him getting a hot poker from the fire and burning my aunt. I have heard stories about him chaining my uncles to trees and beating them with chains, or maybe tying them and beating them with chains. I'm not sure how it worked. So every story I've ever heard about him has been one that just makes you sick. He was not a good guy. He was always drunk. He was always gambling. He was always losing money. He was a blacksmith, and not a good guy. My grandmother was the youngest one, and by this time in my great grandma's life, I guess she had kind of gotten rid of grandma's dad by him taking up with some other woman, some old redheaded woman, as my grandma used to say, who she hated. She hated her. I don't know why, because it seems like good riddance, but no, she was very upset about it. But anyway, so he didn't come around a lot. The only time he would ever come around for grandma would be, I guess if he got in a fight with Redhead and wanted to come and have his way with my great grandma, or hurt one of grandma's older sisters or older brothers. Grandma said for her that he never hit or raised a hand to her. Maybe because she was too small when these things were going on. I don't know. What I do know is that he did something terrible to his niece. Um, the story goes that he raped her. I have no idea which niece or how that niece would be related to me. Like if it was one of his siblings' kids or if it was one of my grandmother's siblings' kids. I don't know. If it was his biological niece or her niece. I really don't know. But the point being, she was pregnant from that encounter. And this is back in the 1800s in the South, where everybody had very particular beliefs about things. And she was, known to be a tramp from that point on, even though she didn't ask for this. Well, my grandmother's story is that the way he ended this pregnancy is by beating her until she lost the baby. I do not know how far along pregnant she was or anything like that, but the story is that he buried this baby underneath what he built as an outhouse at their house. And this, again, I don't even know if it was why my grandmother was alive. I don't know when the story came into play or who told the story or how they knew it. But another one of grandma's sisters had a baby out of wedlock. I don't know who the father of that baby was. And I'm not saying it was him. I have no clue. It could have been just somebody she was with. But that's very unacceptable in those times. And he took that baby and stood over the creek where there's a small waterfall. People play in that creek all the time now. And to think that he was standing there. He was standing there with a newborn, holding it out, and was going to drop it into the creek. And some other relative came and got the baby. Um, and then he was raised, and he ended up he ended up being a wonderful man. But he could have been lost just because of my grandfather. In another story that she told, she said that someone had put. I don't know. Must have been a lot of babies going in the creek back then. And this wasn't my great grandfather. This was someone else. Um, Apparently, someone put a baby into a creek somewhere out in Otto, and another family found the baby. I mean, it sounds like Moses, but this is like a real story. I'm not even joking. Um, this old, like, Appalachian stuff that happened really happened. Um, but anyway, they found this baby and they ended up raising that baby as their own and raised them. But, I think a lot of this kind of stuff happened because of incest, people ashamed of that, and also because people were obviously, you know, engaging with each other outside of marriage, and that was not acceptable for those times. So there were just so many stories that my grandmother told me, not only about this awful man who was her father, but also about just, other Appalachian tales. And I can't remember them all right now, I'll be honest. I'll probably think of a few for another time, but she would come up with so many different stories that she would tell me, and I could not believe, what people would go through in those days. She said that, when she was young, that her mother would take the tail of your nightgown and put it under the table leg and go work out in the field. So, like, when you were 2 or 3 years old, instead of taking you into the field and having to worry with you or leaving you there by yourself, the only option was put the baby's dress under the table so they can't move and hope for the best. And so, yeah, she tells a story about my grandmother having a baby out in the field and going back to work that day, like the same day. I don't know if that one's true. That seems like it could be exaggerated. I've been through childbirth, it takes a bit. But nonetheless, here comes my big orange baby, Mason. Um, anyway, she had a lot of really good stories. Oh, I'm sorry about Papa Joe. They put her in the oven? Oh my gosh, Becca. That's so creepy. Like, did she live? Did everybody see that comment? Becca's aunt, they didn't have incubators, so they put her in the oven. Like, just on, like, oh. I'm sorry to hear that about your aunt, too, Fallon. Thanks, Valerie. I like to share the stories because it kind of, yeah, yeah, just don't cook the baby. That would be bad. Um, yeah, there were a lot of hardships back then. Carpetbagger is wrestling, having a good time while we're sitting here having a chat. Um, yeah. My grandfather tells stories that are kind of silly, but I think this one is kind of cute. He and his friends, they didn't have anything to do back in these days. Cars were just like not something that everybody had, but some people would. So they would get like a lady's purse, like my grandma's purse or something, and go out and put it in the middle of the road. They wait up on a hill for a car to go by. Meanwhile, they have a string attached to the purse. When the person gets out of the car to check on the purse, they would pull it back. And then they would just laugh and laugh and laugh. So they just had so many silly things they did. Marionette, gross. Hey, Paul, how are you doing? Have you listened to my stories, Paul? There's a quiz after this. Thank you, Lace. You saw a quarter glued to the mall floor? Damn it. That sounds like my reaction to that. Thank you. Can't pronounce Jacko Jacko? They didn't take the car. No, my grandfather was a very good man. My great grandfather, not so much. Yes, we had fun on our vacation. We seen a lot of family. Paul is Jacob's dad. He just said hello, and we got to see him in Milwaukee, and we saw some other people in Indiana, Jake's mom and everybody, and then we went and saw my mother and some other family of mine, my cousins in Detroit. Techno Salami, I've noticed you. Yes, I will take other calls tonight. If anybody wants to call, I will take two more calls tonight. So if two more people want to call, then we'll. Oh, well, this one is someone we've already talked to. So I'm going to say, let's wait for somebody we haven't talked to, just in case. Um, Thank you, Big Red Tower. Wow, that's interesting. Greetings, Jiffy. Alrighty, Fayetteville, North Carolina. Uh oh. Hang on. Hang on. It's not wanting to let me. Okay. Hi, Fayetteville. How you doing?
Is this the Carpetbagger channel?
It is. Who is this?
This is Filmmaker of the Future. Hey,
Hi.
I'm doing good.
All right. Well, nice to meet you. Do you have a story for us tonight?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I do. It's something that happened to me in fifth grade. And let's see, where do I begin? Well, at the beginning, of course. And let's see, give me a minute. Oh, yeah. It was back when I was a safety patrol officer, a hall monitor, if you will. And it seems kind of like a boring job when you look at it in retrospect, especially considering I didn't get to write anybody up or anything like that.
So,
But
yeah,
yeah,
anticlimactic, right?
but any, yeah. Anyways, but the important thing was, I was often, of course, up earlier than everyone else who would come to school that day. So that was a not so great part. But in the meantime, there was a lot of quiet time before all the crowds would rush in. And at one point, I look and I see what looks like a girl dropping her books in the background in the bathroom. And I go over to help her, but then she's not there anymore. And I move my glasses, and it looks like she's still bent down picking them up. And I'm wondering if that was just a no glasses hallucination, or if maybe I saw something else.
So you don't know to this day, like if there was really a person there?
No, but like I said, it could have been because, I had lowered my glasses and things get weird without them, or as if maybe I did see something on the other side. I'm not sure how old the school was, but who knows?
Really interesting. Thank you
Yeah,
so much.
you're welcome.
All right. Well, it's good to talk to you.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye.
Hey guys, I like hearing those kind of things because you know what? Every day something nutty happens to me and I have to question my sanity. Okay, so we've already had a call from this caller and we're not going to take any more calls from the same callers. Someone tell some urban legends. I think I told some urban legends last time about Goatman. Do you remember? I don't know if it was last time. Might have been two or three story times ago. Dorky Disney mom, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Yeah, I'd like to hear some famous ones from where other people are from. You know what? There's a story about a bridge lady in Asheville and she jumps from a bridge, but I don't know the story. All right, Quincy, Illinois. I'm going to take this call. Hi, you've reached the carpetbagger line.
Hi.
Hi. Who is
Uh,
this?
it's Debbie from Illinois. I'm a Funketeer.
Hi.
Didn't really expect to get you, so uh, let me turn this down a little bit.
No problem.
Okay. I actually have a couple stories, and I don't really know which one I should tell. The short one would be when I was a kid. This was probably back in the 70s, early 80s. My great grandparents were still living, and they lived in a farmhouse. Uh, Kind of in the middle of nowhere, which the family had owned for about 100 years. There was a family cemetery out back, and we were visiting with my grandmother uh, one day, and we had spent the night. My grandmother had gotten up in the middle of the night and said that she saw a man out in the backyard waving at her, saying, "Over here, over here." And, she thought that was pretty strange, and so she was up the rest of the night, kind of freaked out. She didn't see him after that. Well, in the morning, she mentioned this to everyone, and that was there. There were some guys that came later that day that were digging a sump pump, and they found a headstone right there in the spot that she'd seen this man. And they actually used that headstone as their back doorstep after that, which I thought was kind of funny. But uh, that's basically it there.
Wow. Okay.
And
Tell.
then
What is the other story?
Well, it's not really so much a story. The house I grew up in, there's a lot of activity there. When I was probably about 13, I had two sisters, one 2 years older, one 2 years younger, and I don't really want to say it was ghost activity. We did hear footsteps upstairs when nobody was home, which was really a freak out. um, and but it was more, my parents, if they needed us, they would. It was a really big house. It actually was listed as a 4 to 7 bedroom house. So we had a lot of running space in that place. And uh, my parents, if they needed us, would just come to the bottom of the stairs and yell. Well, we
Right.
would hear them yell for us and go downstairs, and they hadn't yelled for us. And when we
Ooh.
were out in the backyard playing, we all played instruments. When we were in the backyard, all of us, we could hear like ourselves practicing our instruments inside the house. Just
Th-
very faintly, but it was there. It was just very strange. Nothing really major. I never really saw anything, just noises and little things like that over,
Sounds
seemed to
like
really happen all in the space of about 2 years. Um, when I was about, 13 to 15.
sounds like some science fiction stuff.
Yeah.
Like you're flipping times. Like going into a different time continuum or something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
It was
pretty
very strange.
Twilight Zoney. All
We
right.
still talk about it. So,
Like, remember that time when we heard
oh,
something that
yeah.
wasn't there? Yeah. That's always
Yeah.
interesting when your family members hear it too.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Though you tell yourself at the time that, you're just imagining it, but, you have to explain it away somehow.
exactly.
And I think that's what most people do when they experience these things. Uh,
Absolutely.
but thank you.
Well, thank you. I
I
appreciate your
appreciate
time.
it.
Thanks
Yeah,
for
thanks
calling
a
in.
lot. Mm-hmm.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Creep Show is your all time favorite movie? Oh, I haven't seen that one. Hey, Marshmallow Fluff from Great Britain. Also 16, British emo weirdo. And you like my show? Like, somebody please tell my daughter that I'm not the dumbest person in the world. uh, oh, yeah, you can. Hey, Illinois, I just got your text. So go ahead and call back. I'm sorry about that. Sorry I missed your call. And as far as Utah goes, if it's a different person that called before, then you can call again. If it's the same person, I don't want to take this same calls, in one night. That's just something that I've been trying to keep on because one of the shows I had like someone call in several times. So I don't mind to take another call like next time. And I do want to hear your stories. I don't want you to feel like we don't care. I just want to make sure that, the same person doesn't call over and over or whatever. Do I think Brad Pitt is hot? Um, that's a crazy question, of course. Yeah, she is critical, peddling prince. I'm glad you're here. Thanks for coming. Yeah, thanks for the ride, lady. Um, yeah, somebody please tell her I'm not as bad as I look, especially if you're 16 and you have any thought that I'm not a terrible person. All right, I can't wait to hear it. I love the screaming in the haunted houses. I think it's stinking hilarious. What I love to do is go in the houses with him and then like scare him from behind or something like that. Just ah! Thank you, Holly. That's really sweet. You know what? Torchlight does a lot of good for a lady's complexion. Yeah. You're from North Carolina, but your mom's from Danville. Where in North Carolina, Dink's place? That's really sweet, Valerie. Aww. I don't think I'll ever be more famous than Mr. Bagger, and I'll tell you what, he's just such an incredible person and so much more charismatic, than me. But if I were just like sitting around starting out, didn't have anybody that any way of just like starting my own channel, I would be nothing. I'm just lucky, that he had it and that there's already kind of a platform for people to listen if they want to. So that's fun. Yeah, hey, I think this is Peddling Prince. I'm going to totally put his number in here. Hello. Hello.
Hello, this is Carpetbagger?
It is. Is this John?
It's yes, Puzzling Prince. How you doing?
It's good. I'm good. How are you?
Not too bad. I just took. I actually
Thanks,
am in
Arcade.
Halifax right now visiting with my sister and her husband.
Oh,
But
fun.
I just wanted to call in because I haven't had a chance to catch your live streams last couple of times.
Well, you know what? I haven't done any last couple times because I was gone on vacation for 2 stinking weeks, which is
No, well,
awesome.
yeah, no, I know that, but I mean, like Jacob had done a couple too, and I just keep missing him.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
like that's the thing. So actually, since the theme of this is to tell creepy stories, I actually have another one. This one isn't actually one of my own, and I'm not entirely sure where this. It's just something somebody told me when I was in elementary school about a house he used to live in, and I still wonder about this to this day. Basically, what he told me was that they lived in this big house, and it had this one room in it. And they really didn't really use the room for much. I forget what he said was in there, but the thing is, it had this one window in it, right? And they'd look out the window, and it looks like out the front of the house, wherever it was. But when they went outside the house, they couldn't figure out where the heck this window was. Like when you look outside the house, there was nowhere where the window should be. There was no window. Like, where is this window? So they thought, okay, we must be missing it or something like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they took a rope, threw it out the window, so dangling on the ground, said, okay, now let's go outside the house and see where the hell this rope is coming out of the house.
Right.
They went all the way around the house. No matter where they looked, there was no rope. Nowhere, anywhere around the entire house. Like, they threw the rope out. It should be hanging down to the ground somewhere around the house, but they could not find this rope.
Yikes.
So to this day, like they were, of course, they were like 12 or 13 years old at the time. They're like challenging each other. You climb down the rope. No, you climb down the rope. They never did. No, they never tried it. But I always wondered after they told me that story, assuming he wasn't just messing with me, but he just told me with such sincerity. I think it was true, and I've always wondered, where would they have been had they climbed down that rope?
Like in a Coraline adventure. Did anybody ever watch Coraline?
No, actually. I've heard of it, but I've never actually seen it, I'm afraid.
It's wonderfully creepy. I loved that movie. I know it's only a cartoon, but it would creep you out. There's like an alternate world, alternate mom, all kinds of fun stuff. But yeah, a lot of fun. Thank you so much for calling in and telling us the story. And I'm really glad we got to hear from you. Sorry you've been missing us. We did some
Nah,
live
that's
streams
okay.
while on vacation of us like eating jelly beans and getting diabetes and all kinds of fun stuff. It was terrible. We had so much jelly
Yeah.
beans on this trip. I feel like my teeth are going to fall out. But we
Ugh.
had fun.
Yeah, I am actually type 2 diabetic myself, so I can understand.
Yes, I know. I mean, I really shouldn't be eating like that. I'll tell you that much because God knows I don't need it. But
But you know what? The way my perspective on that is, you only live once. Now you don't have to do it all the time, but once in a while to treat yourself, why not?
once in a while would be
might,
good. Had I had any
yeah.
self control, John, that would be great. But I have none. But all right.
Fair enough. Well, I mean, hey, you're enjoying life. Enjoy yourself. What's the use of being healthy and living 10 years longer if you're not going to enjoy it? So,
Truth that. All right. Well, thank you so much for calling. I hope you enjoy your time with your sister. I don't know, like Halifax area or anything, how far it is from where you live, but hopefully you're getting to do
400
some
kilometers.
stuff. 400 kilometers. So I don't really. We're miles here. What's that like?
Let's say 250 miles.
250 miles. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good distance. All
Yeah,
right.
but anyway, yeah, we're actually going home tomorrow evening. So, I just wanted to call in, and since I caught you, tell another story.
Well, thank you so much. Have a good night.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye. Oh, thank you, Golden Vision. I love to do it, even if it's not. Oh my God. Uh huh. Orientation is locked. Can y'all see me now? My phone just totally fell. I am being attacked by my own phone. So, okay, I'm not going to be able to answer that call right now because I've got to set this back up, but this is the second call. Yes, my technical difficulty. If you guys could see this, you'd laugh so hard. Because, confession time, Jacob left the tripod, which last time I did this, I used a selfie stick because I thought, hey, he's probably taking the tripod with him. I didn't see it anywhere. He didn't even take the tripod. I was just crazy. But, okay, let's see if I can get that adjusted. So I bring the tripod this time. I can't find the little thing that like connects the phone to the darn tripod, which is probably on it. I just don't know how to use it. Okay, I just don't know how, people. I'm no YouTuber. Anyway, and he's not here to help me, and my friends aren't here to help me. And my daughter ran away from me. So, ooh, that's creepy. Marshmallow. Okay. All right, I'm going to answer this call from Utah. This is the carpetbagger line. Hang on just a minute while I get you on speaker because somebody else called at the same time. And I have to get rid of them first. Okay, there we go. All right. So now you're on speaker. Is this Utah?
Hi.
Hi. How you doing?
Oh, awesome. How are you?
Good. I'm sorry I've been ignoring your
Good.
call. I thought you were someone else that's already called.
No, it's all good. I just wanted to say I love the Carpetbagger. Love
Oh.
watching the channel, and I'm so glad I got to see what you look like.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, finally.
This is awesome.
Thank you so much. That's really sweet of you. Did you have a story or just want to say that?
Yeah, I have a story. So
Okay.
one time, see, I grew up with my grandma, and this was after she had passed away. My sisters and I were sitting watching TV in the front room, and it was dark outside, so it was dark in the house. And all of a sudden, the TV started flickering, and then it went out. and we kind of looked around trying to figure out what might happen. And as we turned toward my grandma where she used to sleep, a dark figure walked into her bedroom.
Ooh.
None of us even dared go find out if what it was or anything. We just all sat there.
Oh my
It was
gosh.
it was creepy.
Oh, sorry, kitty. I just knocked my cat off the chair. Sorry.
Oh,
that
sweet.
is that is totally creepy. So did you never found out what it was?
No, we
Nothing?
didn't. We just kind of felt like we weren't going to go look. We just kind of went and turned back on the TV and just kept on watching TV.
Oh my gosh. That's so creepy. Well,
Yeah,
thank you so much for sharing that story. What was your name?
Shelly.
Shelly. I'll tell Jacob that we got a call from you, Shelly, and that you were talking about enjoying his show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay. All right. I have missed Erie, Pennsylvania, which I just have to hear from Erie, Pennsylvania because it's just so eerie. Uh oh. Scottsville, Kentucky. Okay. Uh oh. Either I hung up on them or they hung up on me. Oh, thanks, John. I appreciate it. Here's Erie. Hello, Erie. How you doing? Hang on just a minute. We can't get it on speaker because someone else is calling. Okay, there we go. Are you there?
Okay. Yes, yes. This is Brooke from Erie.
Hi.
Hi.
With a name like Erie, I'm expecting big stuff here. What's going on?
Yes. So I remember my dreams, nightly quite often, and I am a pretty lucid dreamer. And sometimes my dreams are not like typical dreams. I sometimes see and talk to people that I've known in my life that have passed away.
Okay.
And I usually have enough mind to be, this is a dream. You're dead. I know you're dead. What's going on? Why are you here? And one particular instance that's happened has like stuck with me for a few years now. I had went to high school and even grade school because I remember because I had a crush on this boy when I was in grade school. And after high school graduation, he joined the military. And sadly, he was killed by a bomb in Iraq.
I'm sorry.
Yes. And he appeared to me in a dream one night. And there's no narrative, no crazy things going on here. It was just me and him. And I asked him, I said, what's it like being dead? What else do you really say, when, you're in that kind of a moment? And he said to me, there was lots of swirling darkness. And, right. And I answered him, I said, well, it has to be peaceful at least, right? And he answered me and he said, not when you die the way I did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And I just remember embracing him, and then, the dream was over. And I think about it still a lot, and I think about him, and, and whether it's just, the wonders of the human brain, and how it works when you're dreaming, or whether it's, truly a supernatural experience, I don't know, but, it happened to me, I remember it, and I think about him, and I just hope, if his spirit is, in purgatory somewhere, that, me thinking about him and hearing him has helped.
I always find these stories about people, like not necessarily what you're saying, like the dream that you heard, but you hear of people who've had a surgery and they've died and they've come back, or they've been in a car accident and they've had a near death experience, something like that. And I always find it fascinating what people will tell. Some people will say it's peaceful, it's beautiful, there's light, and then there's the
Mhm.
scary ones. And
Right.
that always gives me pause just to kind of think about that. And wouldn't purgatory be the saddest thing? Just
Right.
drifting. I don't know. Um, I don't want to get into expressing my views or anything, but that's just such a scary thought to me.
I know
um,
it really shook me, and I think about him all the time now, and I just hope my thoughts and my prayers have helped in some way.
yeah. Well, keep doing what you can. It's wonderful that you have that gift, even. So thank you so much for calling in and sharing with
Thank
us.
thank you so much. I'm a big fan of your channel.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll let
Thank
Jacob
you.
know. Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Okay. So, here's someone else. This might be our last call, y'all, because I'm running down to like 10%, 5%. This is Christy.
Hey, Miss Bagger.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey, I just wanted to say that I love watching all of Jacob's videos, and I'm from Florida. I'm in a wheelchair. I'm
Oh,
paralyzed, so I can't really travel much.
mm-hmm.
So, like, watching his videos and all of his travels is just like the hugest inspiration to me.
That is so nice to hear and awesome that there can be an inspiration that I feel like we're just absolutely blessed that he's able to do that for people, and just such an awesome thing that he can do.
Yes.
And I enjoy doing this and entertaining people once a week for, as much as
Oh, well,
long as I can.
I think you're great too. I mean,
Thank you.
I wouldn't know about this if it wasn't for him. Watching your
Exactly.
live stream. But
Exactly.
yeah, I mean, I always look forward to his videos because being in a wheelchair, it's kind of hard to travel and stuff. So
Yeah.
I can always look forward to Jacob going to a place I've never seen, and I mean, it's just it's really there's no words that can really explain. I mean, I appreciate everything he does, everything you guys do, and
Oh,
you guys are great.
that's so sweet. Thank you. You know what? I kind of live through him too because I can't travel as much between work and my grandfather and my daughter, of course, and so it is sometimes with joy and sometimes with just
Yeah,
utter jealousy. I have to say that
yeah,
that I
yeah.
see
That
him traveling.
sometimes whenever I like watch some places he goes to, and I notice that like you're not there, in the back of my mind, I'm like, if it was me and I couldn't go, I'd be like, man, I understand.
I mean, I love it, seriously, but when he went to the Grand
Yeah.
Canyon without me, I was like, dude,
Oh man.
come on. The Grand Canyon. I've been wanting to go there
All
my whole life. So I hopefully we can one day go together.
right. Bye bye.